His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli, over the first years of his first term, was everything any country desired but didn't have. A leader of genuine and tough stance over corruption, a deep commitment to public service. He will call it chapa kazi tu. There was no time for laxity. He adopted the belief and practiced servant leadership, placing the issues of the average Tanzanian at the center of government policies. He was too good to be true. Building a firm foundation for Tanzanian economy to take off, John Pombe Magufuli has indeed left a legacy. This 18th day of March 2021 marks the first day of mourning of President Magufuli in Kenya and across the globe. And for that matter, we'd like to take a moment of silence for the fallen leader. Welcome to Tipping Point. We ask you tonight, what will you remember the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli for? What will you remember the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli for? To help us discuss these and the state of the nation, our guest, of course, our fourth panelist, is you. Send in your feedback, comments through our SMS line 111 or on our social media handles at Switch TV Kenya, a link on Wombogo. And to keep this show as interactive as possible, remember to use the hashtag Tipping Point. My name is Lincoln Wombogo. Our sign language interpreters tonight are Tracy Dorcas and Teresia Washira. But first, we'll start the show with a bite by President Uhuru Kenyatta leading the nation in mourning President Magufuli.
Do hereby order and direct that in testimony to the high esteem in which the people of Kenya hold President John Pombe Magufuli, the Republic of Kenya will observe a 7-day period of national mourning.
We ask you tonight on our question of the day, what will you remember the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli for? What will you remember the late Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli for? SMS on 111 at Switch TV Kenya, a link on Wombogo. Remember to use the hashtag Tipping Point. And my guest tonight, the very right Mary Arviza, a Nairobi-nominated MCA, Gloria Roba, youth policy analyst, and Nurdin Kagai, a lawyer. And of course, on Zoom we have Rajab Hassan, a journalist in Tanzania. Maybe we can start. Arviza, what will you remember Magufuli for?
When I think about Joseph Pombe Magufuli, I think of an African statesman. A man, when I visited Dar es Salaam in 2017, when I had just become an MCA, and visited it later on in 2018, there was a big difference in how Dar es Salaam looked like. I even went up to Dodoma and I went by road. And he managed to make the civil service to officially move from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. And that was because they did not want to. So he was a man of virtue, a great African statesman. I think of him as a son of Africa because he was just not there to take everything that the West says. He may have made mistakes, for instance, in the COVID by maybe saying that people kind of take it easy, not to wear masks and what at the beginning, which he corrected later on, as any one of us have known. But in the way he has said some things like vaccines, they need to be tested before by Africans before we take them. It is because they have not gone through the 12-year period of vaccine testing. So for me, he's an African statesman. I will really greatly miss him. For instance, with the Chinese, and this one I got it from a Tanzanian, he did not give the Tanzanian the soil of Tanzania to build houses and own them. What he did was he gave the plot, asked the Chinese how much they can construct which building, and afterwards the Tanzanian National Housing Corporation took and gave Tanzanians as mortgages. For me, that is statesmanship. That is caring about your country.
Thank you, Arviza. Gloria, what do you remember Pombe Magufuli for?
First of all, I really want to just send my condolences because above and beyond him being a president, he was actually a husband, a father, an uncle, and the people who actually are directly affected. And having said that, I think the first thing is that we have to acknowledge that these leaders also are people with families. Although I have to say, it's a split for me. I remember him as the guy who shut down social media during an election, a guy who actually did not want information to reach the citizens. I remember him as a guy who shamed an incoming cabinet secretary by virtue of actually not understanding that not all of us have got the same personality, are vibrant and what. You remember the instance where there was a cabinet secretary who was about to get sworn in, and that's the kind of leader that I thought, that was a bit abrasive. I remember him as a guy who ignored science against all the facts that were on the table. He ignored science, and he actually led a whole population, a whole country. If you are going to talk about back in the days of the Bible, when we had not at that time, we're not calling them pandemic, but it was like back in the days when there was this big, serious, flood. Or this is a guy who led a whole country down down the drain by ignoring science. But I also remember him as a guy who bullied people. His style of leadership was very, very he was a dictator. But the good side of it as well is, I think about him, as much as he had the negative, we all have negatives and positives, I think that he was also a Pan-Africanist. He was a guy who would say no to modern colonialism. Like my co-panelist said, that he was a guy who would actually say, no, I'm not going to sell my country. So if you want this, this is what we have to trade. And I think as much as he ignored science, he truly believed that this was another scheme by the Europeans, by the colonialists to bring us down. So, I mean, on one side, there are some negatives, and on the other side, yes, he had some positives. So that's what I remember Magufuli for.
Thank you, Gloria.
Yes.
Nurdin, Pombe Magufuli, loved and hated in almost equal measure. What do you remember him for?
Thank you for having me after 2 months, Lincoln. After 2 months. But it's okay, we move on.
You're here now.
Now, in keeping with the motto, the tagline for Tipping Point, truth without
fear.
So I'll be honest.
Please be.
Magufuli is remembered for several reasons. First and foremost, the railway, the roads, the things he's done, the development he's done. But at the same time, for autocratic rule, for gagging the media, for locking pregnant girls out of school, for arrests that are unlawful. You see, the problem we have is one. You see, it's like going to high school, Form 1 to Form 4. You do so well in Form 1 to Form 3 and then fail in Form 4 because of playing. What sticks is what is at the end. So he had the chance to, I wouldn't call him a statesman, because we have to be truthful, because there is no need for development if there's no democracy. Because without democracy, without enjoyment of your rights, without freedom to move around, for example, you can't enjoy that road. So the most important thing for the citizens is their rights. The moment you infringe their rights, then everything you're doing is neither here nor there. So we need to focus on African, it's a learning lesson to every African leader that life is fickle. And any young aspiring leader, we need to ask ourselves, you want to go into this, what do you have to offer? Because at the end of the day, there are positives and negatives. So we even bring it back to Kenya, even we who are young people and you want to seek office, the Uhurus, Raila, Rutos and et al. Pick the good qualities and leave what is bad for them. And that is the only way we'll change Africa. There is no space for dictatorship or benevolent dictators. Because at the end of the day, a dictator is a dictator. So we need to move from being a boss to service delivery. We commend him for what he did, but at the same time, let us be truthful to the ills that he committed. There are those who are suffering, there are those who suffered under his regime, and some of them are seen as a sign of relief.
Thank you, Nurdin. I believe now we have Rajab Hassan on Zoom. Rajab, a journalist from Tanzania. Not yet. Oh, he will tell us. But maybe Ariveza, Magufuli ruled with an iron fist and was known for his firm stand. What do you expect from the president in waiting, Samia Suluhu?
I want to correct that notion.
What notion?
That he ruled with an iron fist, that he was a dictator. I think many of us, and especially I'm talking to young men of Africa, freedom has got responsibility. What I'm seeing many young men and women is they want to enjoy the freedoms, but they don't want to take responsibility. If I am in authority and you want me to just do exactly what you want to abuse me, you want to do whatever, and I'm saying this with all due respect. I'm not saying it's good for you to mishandle people, but I'm just saying, in 1992, I don't know how many of you are there and how old, I went to Mogadishu as a person that was giving relief after the so-called dictator Siad Barre had been ousted. Somalia is still in chaos up to the moment. Which freedom was being brought? What I see is, and the monumental economic, talk about it. The railway, the SGR of Tanzania, it's longer than ours. It used even less money. I want a leader that stands for justice. I want a leader that stands for righteousness, even if it will displease some people who want to joke around with corruption. I do not know. I watched that clip of that person that was supposed to be being sworn in, and they cannot take the oath of office. What are you going to really do? For me, I'm a teacher. That's carelessness. And it means you don't take your responsibility very seriously. That person should have taken time and gone through the oath of office before coming to stand before a president. When you stand before a king, I know you don't want to hear that nowadays, but when you stand before a person in authority, you cannot go and stand before them carelessly. You stand before them in honor, because you are not just representing yourself, you are also representing the very people you are representing as Tanzania.
Arivisa,
so
what do you expect from the president in waiting?
Yes, I had to correct that. That what many African young men and women are thinking is freedom, freedom, freedom. And that's exactly what has happened even in our schools. We are wondering why there is indiscipline in schools and in homes. It's because freedom, 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 without responsibility. Coming to our Sulu,
yes,
a great woman. I was just thinking about it, comparing her deputizing and our deputizing here in Kenya. And I realized a great woman. She gave her boss the time to do his job, not overshadowing him all over the place and contradicting and what. I think those are some of the things we need to know. You never outshine your boss. You let them do, but you help them in the background and you help them where they want you to go. So I'm looking forward. I'm hoping we can be able, some of us Kenyans, organize ourselves and be able to go and celebrate this great woman as she takes office.
Thank you, Arivisa. Tough and firm. She's touched on the youth and carelessness. Gloria, you're a youth policy expert.
You know, she mentioned that
Please.
in 1992, I don't know how many people were here or born, whatever. That is the dismissiveness that our senior members of this society need to stop. Because at the end of the day, listen, we're here. We are in studio. We are sitting in the same platform. I mean, come on. You better recognize that in 1992, whether I was in my mother's womb or whether I was in nursery school, it doesn't matter anymore, because, my lady, we are here together. So we need to reach a place in this country where we must respect the youth. And it's not about giving them opportunities and throwing things and then it's just the notion that actually a youth who's on the table, same level as you, can actually deliver something that you might not have seen. By the way, we're in 2021. I would like to know how many senior citizens sitting on this table are able to use the modern technology that we are using now, especially in the instances that now we have COVID-19. We are not running campaigns on political platforms that they used to run in 1986 when I was born. We are now moved on. So there is so much that the youth is bringing to the table, and we must come to a place as a country that we appreciate the youth. So dismissive talk such as, I don't know where you are in 1992, I don't know this and that, that stuff should stop, you know. Now, coming back to your question on...
Samia Suluhu.
Yes, what do I see in her?
Yes.
I am ecstatic. I'm so glad that we actually, you know, there was a notion that she was chosen to be a deputy because, you know, she's calm, she's timid, she doesn't overshadow the president, there's nothing she can do, she can't even try and get a coup. But guess what? Magufuli is dead. Now she's in power. And now we get to see the real leader that's going to come out. So at the end of the day, I appreciate the fact that we have a woman. I appreciate the fact that finally in 2021 we can actually talk about not just 4 women presidents that we have, you know, Joyce Banda, we had the acting Ellen Johnson, we had, you know, now we are getting the strides. So yes, definitely, if there's a celebration, we will go. I know there's a meme doing rounds that UDA is fielding a candidate in Tanzania.
Yes, and we'd like to know what's the candidate. That was a theme we didn't know.
I really love the way Kenyans have empowered UDA. You know, like they are so powerful, they can field a candidate in Tanzania.
Yeah. Thank you, Gloria. Yeah. Now, Nordin.
Yeah.
Samia Suluhu, do you think she's got what it takes to take after Magufuli?
If you look at her track record, for example, education-wise, she's okay.
She's good.
Public administration, economics, and what have you. If you also look at her political career, she's been a minister twice. She's been a member of parliament. She's represented Zanzibar in the Representative House. What we don't know is what she stands for. That's the question. But you know, the sad reality is that Tanzania, South Africa, and Zimbabwe are still controlled by the independence parties. So most definitely, whatever the independent party wants, CCM that is what she has to do. So maybe she has to finish what Magufuli started, for example. Now, in going back just a little bit, in going back to the, you know, I'm a young man, I'm youthful, right? And you have to speak truth to power once in a while. You know, we talk about democracy, about freedoms. Without that, you can't enjoy the basic rights that are in the Constitution as a Kenyan. You can't picket, you can't demonstrate, you can't vote peacefully. That's why we have things like Kabuchai and Matungu, where voters, you know, there are a number of electoral offenses that happened in Kabuchai and Matungu. Any serious candidate would have gone to court, and believe you me, as a lawyer, I'll tell you, nullification of any of them would have been done because there was undue influence, there was bribery, there was violence. Now, if there is no freedom to elect a member of parliament, there's nothing you're doing as a country. That is why we talk about freedom. That is why we have those who like
in relation to Tanzania.
Yes, that's why we have those who fought for liberation. You realize? That is why we as Africans fought for independence from the colonialists. Because if it is all about development, maybe they were doing it. But now you wanted your own space. That is what we're talking about. Now, for Suluhu, I hope and pray that she has a Suluhu going forward, because at the end of the day, they are going to experience hard times. She's a lady, and I commend what has happened. It's actually a new face, something that we believe. Personally, I believe that revolutions and women liberation go hand in hand. Women are equal partners, not servants or subjects. So I believe, because I am a student of Thomas Sankara School of Politics, and I believe we need to move away from the archaic notion that women are best in the kitchen. So I hope and pray that the men in Tanzania will not try and bulldoze her, but let her work for the people of Tanzania. And the people of Tanzania, support your president. She is your president. Support your president, because you're going to observe high political turbulence coming your way. But I'm sure Nasuluhu, she'll sail through.
John Pombe Magufuli, known for fighting corruption, corrupt-free. Let's take a look at this point.
Corruption is a cancer, it's a disease. And if at all you are there to fight the disease, you must fight it seriously. If you go it slowly, you can't fight that disease. So the best way is to make sure that we destroy all this, the disease which actually is causing a lot of...
That is John Pombe Magufuli condemning corruption with all his power. Now, what can Kenya learn? 1 or 2, 3 things that Kenya can learn from Magufuli's style of leadership, especially in the fight against corruption. Ariveze.
Walk the talk. If you say no, it is no.
Are you saying someone is not walking the talk?
What I mean is, in Kenya,
yes,
we fight the corruption, but we still see it going on. And then the culprit look like they go scot-free. Let me give an illustration here.
Please.
I'm so sad to see the headline of today, a great woman in the national land, whatever, being killed. If she was a witness, and really we are fighting corruption, that lady should have been protected. she should have been a protected witness, because we know corruption hits back. So we walk, what I mean by walking the talk is taking it very seriously, that we need. Our corruption is so institutionalized such that when anybody takes the position, and I'm glad I'm seated with two a young lady and a young man just besides me. When you fight and you're idealistic, because I'm also a psychologist, you're idealistic. When you grow up, you should not get absorbed into the society of corruption. I want, when God helps me and I'm into my 90s, when I look at you, you will still be talking what you are talking right now, and I like it. Because if we do that, then we have the future. So Magufuli stood for what he said. When he visited the port of Dar es Salaam and found some fellows who were just putting the coat and leaving, I mean, they were sacked on the spot. Let me give you an illustration. I wrote a book that is in the Kenyan curriculum, and I went and it was taken into the Tanzanian curriculum. Up to now, it has not been whatever, because I think the people who were in the system at that time were found to have probably had some other malpractices. Mine didn't have, but the person who was, by the time I went, I needed to start the process all over again because the person was not in office. When you do that to several fellows, and especially people who are closest to you, when you say, this is my sister, but because she's corrupt, this is my mother, and because she's corrupt, this is my uncle, and because they're corrupt, they go and get the punishment that people will be very serious. And this has happened elsewhere. Singapore, for instance. And I think while you people are, your hero may be Sankara, some other people's hero may be that guy of Singapore, who brought a country that was even below us at independence and brought it into almost a first world. Why? Every corrupt fellow was dealt with mercilessly. So when we take it seriously, that we don't want corruption, when we take it very seriously as a society, and this can happen also when because we are part of the bribing. For instance, when you are traveling on Kenyan roads, you'll just find people. Nowadays, they just drop the 50 shillings on the ground. So you ask the driver, sasa nini umefanya? Usipofanya utakaa hapo masaa mengi sana. So we are aiding. But when we say no to this kind of things, it will take us a long way. So it is not just the leadership. It is we, the citizens, who should also hold the leadership that we put into office
accountable. Thank you very much, Ariviza. We now take a short commercial break. Our hearts and our love and, of course, our prayers go out to the people of Tanzania, our brothers and sisters. It is indeed a sad moment for the East African community and the world at large. The conversation continues after this short commercial break. Welcome back. You're watching TV Point. I'm Lincoln Mbogwa with sign language interpreters Teresia Washira and Tracy Dorcas. A low voter turnout was witnessed in Machakos County as voters went to the ballot to elect a new senator following the demise of Boniface Mutinda Kabaka on 11th December 2020. However, vote counting process is ongoing as the Wiper senatorial aspirant Agnes Kavindu battles it out with UDA's Albanus Muthama Gengele as the favourites to clinch the seat. There are 1,335 polling stations across Machakos County, 8 constituencies. We'll update you then and when we get any updates on numbers from the polling stations. Now, Machakos, low voter turnout. What attributes to this? Are Kenyans, are Kenyans afraid of voting, exercising their civic duty, or are you going to blame it to COVID or revisit?
Generally, during a by-elections, the voter turnout is normally low because people move, they change where they're staying, they relocate, and especially now with COVID, many things, people are trying to at least hack a living, you know. So wherever it may be, they have changed stations. That's one. But secondly, when people become, Kenyans, we are a very family-oriented. When we bring into politics families, it hurts people. And so some people decide, let them just do it themselves. Thirdly, it is the political atmosphere. Some people may be trying to prove a point for the next 2022 elections. So I think we will wait and see. But generally, during a by-elections, the voter turnout is normally, but it should not be too low.
This one is too low. Gloria.
Well, she's right. When you talk about fielding, when you're bringing the family politics, which is what we've seen with Kina Kavindu and Mudhama and the fights that they've actually subjected us to, it no longer becomes about choosing a leader for that community. It's more like you guys are washing your dirty linen in public. And you know what was also so interesting, when you had the last minute withdrawal of the Maendeleo Chap candidate, which, if you ask me, was a very premature move because the ballot
We'll come to that.
they had been printed.
We'll come to that. So you're saying it's family?
I think
family feuds.
It started off as a way of showcasing which party has got weight in that area, and then it went down into a family feud, and then it wasn't. It's not so interesting anymore for the members of the public. So although I actually believe that Kavindu has a chance there.
Okay.
I believe. Okay. I could be very, very oblivious. Of course, I don't come from that area.
You know, Gloria seemingly seems like, you know, she's flying that flag, you know, with her clothes.
What do you mean? I have the UDA colors, I have the ODM colors, I have
she has everything.
I have everything.
Low voter turnout, Nuruddin.
Easy. It's not. You know, the reason for that is because the by-election is not about the people of Machakos.
You agree with them that it's about?
Let me tell you something. You know, it's more or less about who is a dominant figure in Machakos. That's the problem.
So it's not family. It's not family.
It's this nonsense.
Gloria Nariveza say it's, you know, they brought in family feuds into this whole thing.
Nonsense. It's 2-3 things. It's one, this nonsense of kingship.
Yes. I'm
the kingpin. That's rubbish at the end of, according to me, because there's no way one person can carry the minds of every single individual, right? And then the second thing is that they're trying to see between Mudhama and the ex-wife who wears the pants in the house. That's the other problem, you see. So that doesn't help the people in Machakos, you know. Because I saw a very interesting swearing in of the UDA candidate. The reason why he's going to Senate ni kufuata mutua kama paka aliyetolewa macho na kumtoa mbio. You know, so that doesn't, there's nothing they're actually telling the people, I want to do this for you. And that's what we need to move away from.
So you think their manifestos were not?
There's no manifesto there. I've told you it's all about the kingpin.
They're not attractive
and,
to the voters.
Who cooks tonight and washes the dishes tomorrow. That's all we are seeing at the end of the day.
I actually want to see the manifesto of the Maendeleo Chap guy who just stepped out last minute.
Now I think you have a problem with that, Gloria. and I'll come directly to you. Governor Mutua's Maendeleo Chap candidate, Mutua Katuku, withdrew after vigorous campaigning. And Alfred Mutua, the governor of Machakos, and the party leader of Maendeleo Chap had claimed that they will not step down for anyone. But after meeting the president on a virtual meeting, they gave a statement and they withdrew. And this has been seen in several by-elections
what is surprising
across the
about
country.
that?
What do you think about that?
What is surprising about Alfred Mutua shifting goalposts? Nothing.
Nothing?
That is, he's actually been very consistent throughout his political career. He's a man without a stand. So, and we know that. We know that for a fact.
That's his consistency.
He's very consistent in actually not being consistent. If that makes any sense.
That was my lecture at
Please let her finish. Then we come to you. We're coming to you.
I think for me, and you know, the sad thing about that, and that is why I encourage a lot of young people to run. The sad thing about that is that you realize most of these candidates are actually not running because they have the passion to run and bring some change to the community. Most of these candidates, even from where I come from, are actually being fueled or being sponsored to run so that, you know, kimbia ukifika huko mbele, tuko na ule candidate tuta support. And then, you know, you drop down, we get our money, we split. It's a business. So at the end of the day, and you see that with older candidates, because they really, first of all, they don't even believe that they are going to win. So for them, it's like, you know what? It's not my money going on the campaign. It's this guy's money. So let me do what I need to do. And, you know, let me ask you something. Alfred Mutua, you know, he's a presidential candidate. Like, he's actually running for president in 2022. When you look at the things that he's doing, you ask yourself, really, is there a strategy here? Is there really an end game to this year presidential campaign? Because how do you pull out a candidate 2 days, or is it a day before the elections? Don't you even understand how IBC works? The papers have already been printed. That candidate is still going to appear. The confusion that you're going to cause at the ballot is insane. As in, at the end of the day, even the person who was buying you, and I'm sorry to say this because I know he had a phone call with the president, they are not okay. Because even if I convince you to pull out your candidate, the confusion that I'm going to cause by having that name on the ballot is still not good. It's not going to be in my favor. So I think there's just lack of strategy in all these political campaigns. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest loser is the Mwananchi. And that's why
is the biggest loser.
I think going forward, they should really assess these candidates and be like, huyu ako karibu atafika huko karibu mwisho ashuke. Because then if that's the person you're seeing is like this, like that, then don't pay attention to them.
Ariza, you wanted to defend your Daystar lecturer, Dr. Alfred Mutua,
First and foremost, I really doubt that it is the older people who are really running around. I keep telling the young men and women I meet, William the Great was William the Great by the age of 22. And he died. He was already William the Great. We are having fellows over 35 who are still calling themselves youth, and they haven't accomplished. They must accomplish things by that time. You are not a youth by the time you are 35. You should have. I got into being interested. I'm a musician, I'm a music teacher. And so I lately stumbled on a guy called Dr. Dr. Nico Wakasanga or Mikalai. That guy, if you listen to his music, and he was, because I'm a recording artist as well, you can tell this guy had a talent beyond his generation, because it was being done in the 50s and 60s. Music of high tech, and even his guitar playing, it's not a joke. And you know, he died in 1985, and he had stopped that music recording for 15 years. So actually by around 36, he had already done his music. What I'm saying is, please, let's get out of this cocoon we are youth. Accomplish what you need to accomplish. Do what you need to do. And it is not elderly people who are really running around. I feel very sad that people who are grown up, a man with 30 years, is still saying, Mbeho. You are supposed to have to use your legs,
although
use your hands.
Of correction, Constitution 18 to 35 is the definition of youth. Yeah, just so we can put facts out here.
Yeah, it is wrong. I was in the constitution making, and we have overdone it. Because when I was growing up, I know she doesn't want me to say this thing of growing up, but it's always good to have a comparison. We were youth between 18 and 25. After that, by the time I was through with my A level, I went into my own place, and I didn't have too many things. I had a bed and a stool and everything, and I was running. I got 800 shillings, and I stayed with my brother. Anyway, what I'm saying is, we are having grown-up fellows in their mothers' houses, and they are claiming to be youth. We have to come out of that. We have to move and become leaders in this country. I want many of you, and I'm happy, my dear lady here has said, we want to see many of you going for elections. We want to see very many of you going for MCA. Those MCA positions, if you get in, you will be able to influence a great deal.
Not governors.
I'm just saying the basic. The basic, that one, instead of you will, by the way, that is a powerful thing, and especially in the BBI. There is a lot of money that will be in that, and you will be able to influence and be able to do things that you need to do. You can go also for MP, senating, and the governor. I have no problem. Personally, I don't have a problem.
Thank you, Arivisa.
Let me finish.
I think Arivisa has not answered my question, and I hope
Yes, that's what I wanted to do.
I hope Nudin, you will answer my question. Okay. Just before the day of voting, in the recent by-elections that we have seen, the president calls, or a meeting with the president, and parties withdraw. What do you really take of this?
That is more or less...
But did he call?
They had a meeting.
That is more or less...
they had a virtual meeting.
Controlled democracy.
Controlled democracy?
I'll call it that. Because at the end of the day, you have no business starting a campaign, then in the 11th hour, say you're withdrawing your candidature. You're clearly indecisive. You're clearly a joker. You are clearly not serious with what you're doing. So at the end of the day, like she says, it goes back to the voter. 3/4 of the people who vie for seats in Kenya are in business. And we have to be honest with one another. I always urge young men, and it's good she's saying this, but I won't just go for the MCA seat. Go for any seat you feel like you can go. We have a governor, the governor of Nandi became governor at 31 years.
Yeah.
Great. So according to the constitution, he's youth. Or he was youth when he became governor. Sakaja was nominated to parliament. Forget even nominated. Sakaja was the chairperson of the ruling party at 27 years. So it's possible, but I'll give you the challenge. The challenge is one. When it comes to politics, the youth are not empowered. We have to fight for these things. It's not easy, because at the end of the day, we are pawns, or we are used, we get used, seduced and abused every election period. There is no one who wants to liberate the youth or empower them fully. And if there is, hasn't gotten to office. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you this. They believe in the archaic notion of suppress them to use them. Because if I liberate you, Lincoln, nobody will demonstrate tomorrow. If I liberate you today, I won't use you to send my political nemesis an agenda, you see. So the young men and women need to wake up and need to break the shackles. Because you see, we're in shackles. Because now we need to get to what I call the third and final liberation, being led by the young men in this country. Because at the end of the day, we have the advantage of time. And the laws being made in Kenya will affect the youth more than anybody else. So if you are not there, part and parcel of the decision-making process, you know, usually the menu on the table, we need to flip that thing around. And you need to sit as equal partners. We usually talk about the Tooth Agenda rule. According to me, it needs to be read together with Article 100, where it talks about the youth and people with disabilities. Because at the end of the day, youth is in women. So when you focus on two-thirds, let us also bring about the issue of the youth. Because women, and the moment you liberate the women and the youth, that is when we're changing our politics. That starts from nomination.
Thank you for talking about the Constitution, because, you know, the BBI Bill seeks to amend the Constitution. The bill has gone through the two readings, the first reading in the two houses. It proposes additional 70 constituencies from the current 290 to 360. Now, IEBC Chairperson Wafula Chebukati yesterday said that these additional 70 constituencies are unconstitutional. Is it too late to make such remarks, Gloria? Is it too late?
You know, the word unconstitutional needs to be defined because you can add constituencies in a document like Building Bridges Initiative, but BBI is not the law, and BBI is not I mean, it is, I can sit down and draft something and call it, you know, the Gloria report and say that I want 100. Then I cannot enforce that because it's unconstitutional. So I think the conversation we should be having about additional constituencies is, first of all, the necessity. Personally, I come from Bobasi constituency, and it is huge. It is really huge.
Huge in terms of land, or
it
huge
is
in terms
huge
of
in terms
population?
of population. It is huge in terms, not necessarily land mass, really just population. And when you look at the member of parliament and what he's supposed to do as representing his people and actually pushing that CDF agenda in terms of development and infrastructure, it is overwhelming, and actually, and the resources that are given for that particular constituency, Bobasi constituency, if you say you are going to compare it with any other constituency, including back here in Nairobi, yes, then there is a conversation that should be had in terms of why do we need to split this into two? Why do we need to actually, change the boundaries so that we can have, two separate constituencies? But I think the problem is how we are going about it. Because, Building Bridges initiative was apparently supposed to be Jesus. I come to save you all. Mko na shida gani? Mko na shida ya youth tax break. Mko na shida gani? Mko na shida. You understand? And the practicality of it was not really thought through. Even when some of the conversations that are being had there, including how we are going to approach nominations moving forward, it's not really practical. When you say you are going to nominate only the people who run for office, then what you're saying is you're going to nominate political rejects. That's how I see it. Because if you ran for office and people said, hujatosha, you are technically a political reject, and maybe you need to pull up your socks and do better next time. And if you look at the formula they're using, I keep saying this, a woman in Garissa, in Wajir, who runs for office and loses by 50 votes, yeah? I run for office, I'm in Wajir, I get 150, and the winner gets 200. That person, compared to a person in Kiambu, who runs for office and gets 22,000 votes, and the winner gets 40,000 votes, do you know that the woman who lost with 50 will actually be bottom of the list in nominations, because they're actually they're using the formula of one man, one vote. So again, we are marginalizing the already marginalized communities. So BBI is this wonderful document that ideally should solve all our problems. But if you sit that 14-member task force of senior citizens, because they were senior citizens with an average age of 55, all of them 70 and above and whatever, and if you sit them down and tell them, now we have passed this thing, imepita kwa county assembly, we have passed it, imepita kwa nini, actually we even signed it into law, take this thing and go and implement. They cannot. Half of the things that are in there, and I can tell you, the people with disability, for instance, why did they come out guns blazing? Because of these words that they keep using in there, progressively, which kind of means like, yes, we are going to have the 2/3 gender rule progressively, and it's a lot of gray areas. When you look at in terms of women, taking women to the Senate is a win. Because now you're saying, if we have 47 constituencies, possibly the constituencies go to 60-something, then you're going to have 60-something women in the Senate. What is the work of the Senate? Oversight. It means, right now, a lot of the work that they're doing now is checking expenses of budgets that have already been spent. So they're kind of saying, nyinyi mulitumia 3 million kujeni, kwanza last year we're going to, you understand? It's oversight. Now, do they have an affirmative action fund in the Senate? They do not. So when you scrap out the women rep seats and say, we are removing the women rep seat, which has an affirmative fund, but we are now going to throw all you women to the Senate. But remember also, the National Assembly is where they are going to pick the cabinet secretaries. So you're also telling us women, you guys don't belong in the cabinet secretary and go to the Senate.
We have less than 10 minutes. Is it too late for IEBC to make such remarks now?
It's not even a matter of being too late or what. IEBC is not a law in itself. I think what the IEBC is trying to do is exactly what TSC did. They removed themselves from the Minister of Education. They became very dictatorial, and eventually the teaching fraternity in this country is on its knees for the first time since independence. What IBC is supposed to know is that at any time, an initiative can be done either through Parliament or through the Kenyan initiative like this BBI, which can be brought before the peoples of Kenya to decide on their destiny. When we were making the 2010 inauguration, we said that 20% was not good. That is the one we are trying to amend. I want to just correct my sister. The fact is, the county governments are not being changed. They will remain 47 in BBI, and it means if we'll have 47 who have been there, mostly have been men, there'll be another 47 women. So they are at par in the Senate. However, we need to know that there is an affirmative action very alive in the Parliament. If the men are the majority, we will have women being put in to bridge. So in that way, women are actually gaining. And people living with disability have also got the affirmative action in that way. There'll be a youth as well, and a woman, a person living with disability, that'll be nominated, not progressively. I know eventually this thing of women and men, I think it's being given 3 consecutive elections so that women can start going for elections. On the other hand, it should be noted that in this BBI, there is a lot that women and men and youth are going to gain. I have already talked a bit of it. For every county, for instance, from the Nairobi County, we get about, we bring out taxes worth about 37 billion. And if we collect these taxes in a better way, we can even get more. What that means, every ward in Nairobi will be able to get 20 million per year. 20 million to use in a ward, just whichever ward you are in. So in the 5 years, every ward would have received 100 million to do whatever they want to do in their ward. So they can build nursery schools, they can build whatever. So there is a lot of good in this, in spite of it having been made by older men and women of average of 50 something. There is a lot of good. But suffice to say, it is important. I love youthful people. It is important for you to come in. You should not be left out. Struggle for your position. I'm a politician at the moment, but I've been in education for very many years. Let me tell you, nobody will give you space.
Nobody will give you space. No,
fight for your space.
Let me give you space now, Nur.
Give me space. Give me space.
Do you envy Sage's stalemate? You know, IBC says that they do not have data for all the current 290 constituency, their population, and even the 1450 wards. Do you envy Sage's stalemate?
Your question was, is it
unconstitutional?
You know why?
That's the first question.
First question. Answer number 1, right? 2 marks, put this. Article 88 says that IBC has the mandate to review boundaries, not BBI.
Not BBI.
That's number 1. Number 2, Article 89 says for you to review the boundaries, it should be at least 12 months before a general election. Number 3, Article 89 says for you to review the boundaries, you check on population quota. So what are they using to review? So let's go to IBC. IBC says we have been told, we have been given 6 months. 6 months to review, to do this thing, right? And they say 6 months is not enough, because at the end of the day, you have to realize there's cultural heritage rights, there are physical, geographical issues, and you also have to look at the community interest. So have you done public participation for you to choose the 28 select counties that are meant to benefit? What did you use to choose the 28 and left the rest? So IBC is saying they have to do public participation. That's according to the law, because anyone can go and challenge that. You have 30 days. Once they do their work under the Constitution, you can challenge in 30 days. So at the end of the day, we need to be honest, we need to be holistic, and we need to be truth without fear. We have to be truthful. What we're trying to do... Do you envisage a stalemate? Of course there will be, but the problem is the Constitution in Kenya, people get sworn in and they use the Constitution. I will protect and uphold the Constitution, but they go and annihilate the same Constitution. They don't follow it. So the problem in Kenya, we have lawlessness. We have enough laws, and I repeat that as a lawyer, we have enough laws, but the problem is they are never followed. That is why we have the state where things happen like this is a jungle, survival for the fittest, and we need to change that going forward.
Thank you. Quote of the day: the way to treat a boil is to squeeze it out, and I have made it my responsibility to do that. I know squeezing out a boil hurts, but unfortunately there are no 2 ways about it. That quote is by John Pombe Magufuli. May his soul rest in eternal peace. The views described in the show are strictly individual views and do not portray the views of Switch TV. My panelists, thank you very much. Watching at home, thank you very much for watching. Sign language interpreters, thank you. My producers, Clifford Doobie, Daniel Karaoke, thank you. And the conversation continues next Thursday. Good evening.